In the first section of this video, where I ask all the what-if questions, I won't be providing the same level of proof, which I'll provide in the second section, where I explore how the white hats have worked tirelessly towards ending this amazing reign of debt enslavement that the bank gangsters have imposed on us. Guys, the reason for this is that I've covered all of these subjects extensively in more than, more than 15 videos, and I've also created an online resource which also has a number of PDF documents as proof, etc. If you'd like, I've also created a resource which highlights 12 non-Google search engines and over 83 different search terms, which will definitely support you to conduct your own research, guys, because there's no better way of gaining understanding than actually doing the research yourself and finding the info yourself. So I'm going to put a link to this resource in the comments below. I don't want you to believe a single word that I say in this video, but what I would rather do is I'm going to play a little game of what if with you. The first what if is, what if we lived in a world where a group of evil bank gangsters were ruling our planet by controlling the money supply, printing money out of thin air? What if we lived in a world where people are kept in perpetual debt so that they're way too busy surviving to ever thrive? What if we lived in a world where our mothers are manipulated into warding their children to the state on registration of their births? What if through numerous false flag events, these same evil bank gangsters have over time eroded all of our freedoms? What if we lived in a world where these same bank gangsters have gained control of more than 97% of the world's mainstream media so that they can completely control the narrative and opinion of humanity of the day? What if we lived in a world where these bank gangsters controlled all governments around the world through bribery, corruption, honeypotting, and murder? What if we lived in a world where an international organization called the Bar controlled all legislation and created all the rules, regulations, not to ensure humanity's freedoms, but to gradually take them all away from us? What if we lived in a world where these bank gangsters controlled Hollywood and all its actors so that they could reinforce any devious messages that they wanted to spread? What if we lived in a world where these bank gangsters controlled all of social media so that they could completely control the narrative which reaches people? What if we lived in a world where our country was no longer a republic which belonged to the people, but rather that it's a corporation owned by a few shareholders? Well, that's a brief summary of the world humanity has occupied for a very, very, very long time. Now imagine that you're a group of incredible heroes with virtually unlimited funding from Howard Hughes called the Whiteheads. Guys, I'll put a link to a video describing all of this in the comments below. How would you work to defeat this abject evil? Would you ensure that a powerful and honest leader with integrity is elected as president of the USA? Would you create a new narrative about the mainstream media where you constantly call them out about their fake news reporting so that you can start to awaken people to all the lies, manipulation, and propaganda put out by the mainstream media? Would you not start prosecuting these evil monsters for crimes that they've committed against children? Would you then use this knowledge about their crimes against children to force the fraudulently, I'm saying selected, not elected, selected leaders from other countries all around the world to concede so that you can begin to correct all the devious evil actions that these monsters have taken in the past? Would you not create a sting operation where you observe these evil creatures, now I'm calling them creatures, create a worldwide pandemic so that you can allow people to see for themselves just how evil these monsters, these bank gangsters actually are? Would you not create a sting operation where you allow them to steal a presidential election so that you can identify and prosecute all of those sleepers, those people hiding in plain sight?
On the lower left of your screen last week, I brought you Dinesh D'Souza. He said 2,000 mules was screened at the Texas GOP convention. Last night, this resolution was passed by the largest GOP in the nation. We reject the certified results of the 2020 presidential election, and we hold that acting President Joseph R. Biden Jr. was not legitimately elected by the people of the United States. And to the right, breaking news in Arizona, unanimous decision. Maricopa County Republican Committee Executive Board rejects the 2020 presidential election. So both Texas and Arizona took the first step in the decertification of the 2020 presidential election. They are the first two dominoes to fall. Folks, we're just getting started. We're going to fix 2020 and get Trump back in his rightful office as president of the United States. Remember, according to devolution, Trump is still president and controls the United States military. And breaking in Georgia, voter GA sues for hand recount in all 159 counties to stop Brad Raffensperger from stealing the Republican primary. And the Supreme Court came out today with two major rulings, first in favor of voter ID laws, and then protecting our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
Would you not ensure that the two candidates chosen to run for president and vice president are the worst possible options, so that the bank gangsters would have to cheat on such a monumental scale that it would be literally impossible to hide the cheating from all of us? Would you not allow this incompetent buffoon to make so many mistakes?
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him
so that even his most loyal supporters would begin to question his competence?
Members of the president's own party now seem to be turning on him. A new report revealing some 20 Democrats working in both Congress and the White House that are privately complaining to members of the mainstream media, blasting how the president is handling the crises that keep piling up under his watch. One unnamed Democrat lawmaker telling CNN that the Biden administration is rudderless, aimless, and hopeless.
Would you not want all the necessary collapses such as the stock exchange, the petrodollar, and double-digit inflation and beyond to occur during this incompetent buffoon's watch? Would you not find innovative ways to force the whole world to create a new monetary system with asset-backed currencies to protect against inflation and exploitation in the future? Would you not create a monetary system free from the clutches of the bank gangsters?
Imagine a gold-backed ruble tied to the oil price. Sounds too good to be true, but yet it is. A month into the Western sanctions, the Russian currency has regained all its losses and is ready to challenge the international trade and monetary system. In early March, many thought it was teetering on the edge of the abyss. But one decision changed everything. The golden move. On March the 28th, the Russian central bank resumed purchasing gold from commercial banks, setting a fixed price of 5,000 rubles for 1 gram. Big deal? Most definitely. A fixed price for gold indirectly ties the ruble to the market value of the precious metal. The trick is simple. If 1 gram of gold costs 5,000 rubles, it's also fair that 5,000 rubles are worth 1 gram of gold. Markets reacted immediately, pushing the exchange rates upwards. Is the gold standard back? The formal gold standard was at its pinnacle before World War I, but its elements continued to exist up until the early 1970s. Under the financial system, the value of a currency was denominated in gold. Paper money could be easily converted into coins and bullion at a fixed rate, and vice versa. In Russia, it's not the case. If you bring 5,000 rubles to the bank and ask for 1 gram of gold in return, you'll be out of luck. It's more of a one-way street. The fixed gold price right now is only valid for central bank purchases. But it's still sending a very powerful signal to the market. Unlike the majority of modern currencies backed by nothing more than the faith of their holders, the ruble now has ties to physical commodities. And gold isn't the only one. Gold for rubles, rubles for gas.
I have decided to implement a set of measures to switch over payments for our natural gas into Russian rubles.
The Gas for Rubles initiative is another game changer. With natural gas prices tied to the ruble and the ruble tied to gold. Ties between rubles and gold could allow Russia to accept the precious metal as payment in oil trade. Imagine Russia saying it will accept 1 gram of gold per barrel of oil. A discounted offer, very tempting. What happens next? Buyers start buying physical gold to pay for Russian oil exports. High demand pushes gold prices further up. And if the gold prices are on the rise, so is the ruble. Any move by Russia to accept gold for oil will cause more of its influx into the country's reserves, meaning even more stabilization and support for the national currency. On the verge of global dominance? As a major producer of gold and energy resources, Russia holds enough supply to back its currency, and enough commodities to offer at a reasonable price in exchange for gold in the global market. Such a gold-based trading system is yet to be built, but with the idea of shifting away from the dollar more popular than ever, we may soon see it materialize.
Would you work to bankrupt the fraudulent corporations which are masquerading as countries so that they can be returned to republics and belong to the people once again? Would you work to break their fraudulent systems, such as the Ponzi scheme masquerading as the stock exchange?
When people are having a difficult time saying something, they often stutter their words. It can be a big tell for if someone is lying. And that's exactly what happened recently after the stock market plunged and Peter Doocy asked Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, about it. NextNewsNetwork.com reports on June 13th, 2022, the Dow Jones ended down just over 876 points. The NASDAQ ended down 530 points, and the S&P 500 ended down 151 points, according to CNN Business. Now, Fox White House correspondent Peter Doocy asked Biden's press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre about it, and here was her answer. Take a look.
President Biden once bragged about the stock market hitting record after record after record on my watch. How about now?
Meaning the stock market?
All the gains from President Biden's time in office have been wiped out.
So, as you know, we're watching closely. We know families are concerned about inflation in the stock market. That is something that the president is really aware of. And so, look, we face global challenges. We've talked about this. We're not the only country dealing with what we're seeing at the moment as it relates to inflation. You know, Putin's price hike, inflation coming out of a once in a generation global pandemic. All of those things play a factor. And but the way that we see this is that the American people are well positioned to face these challenges because of the economic historic gains that we have made under this president in the last 16 months.
And would you not create the perfect circumstances to destroy the fraudulent and downright criminal system called fiat currency, which these bank gangsters use to create money out of thin air? Would you not destroy the bank gangsters' stranglehold on commodities such as precious metals, mineral oil, foods, etc., by destroying the so-called currency of last resort, namely the petrodollar?
Petrodollar is actually a device invented by Kissinger and Nixon.
The standard of living of all Americans can be traced back to here, the vast oil-rich deserts of Saudi Arabia.
In the early 70s, after the Arab crisis happened with the oil embargoes, OPEC basically tripled the price of oil to the Western world. And at that time, America realized that they were vulnerable because they were importing about 70% of all the oil they consumed.
To secure a reliable foreign source of oil, U.S. President Richard Nixon sent his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger to Saudi Arabia for a secret meeting. The result was a pact that still stands to this day.
If Saudi Arabia, which at the time was the world's largest producer of oil, would sell the oil in US dollars, America would defend Saudi Arabia and make sure the House Assad would stay in power.
As a direct result of this U.S.-Saudi agreement, all other oil-producing nations also adopted the dollar as the de facto medium of exchange. Demand for it increased exponentially all over the world, and soon it had a new name, the petrodollar.
Your currency is only as strong as the demand for it, just like anything else, the supply and demand. Why the petrodollar is important, it causes a demand for the US dollar. A lot of Americans don't realize that over 70% of all the $100 bills in the world are actually outside of the US. There's more $100 bills in Russia than there are in America.
This stockpile of US dollars in countries around the world is because oil is bought and sold using the greenback.
If oil starts trading in non-petrodollars, such as gold or a basket of currencies, or if China and Russia start trading in yuan and ruble rather than US dollars, that demand isn't there. And the way of life for the average American will be done. It will be worse than the Great Depression.
To date, anyone who's potentially threatened the status of the petrodollar hasn't fared well. Libyan strongman Muammar Gaddafi publicly pushed for a Pan-African gold-backed currency that he would trade for Libya's oil. He was killed during a US-backed revolution in 2011. And just a few short years before, Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein advocated selling oil for euros.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq.
The U.S. invaded under the guise of looking for WMDs.
Iraq did not have any weapons of mass destruction. And interestingly enough, after the Americans invaded, took over, put in their own government, the whole concept of selling oil in euros never surfaced again.
Today, many countries resent the current petrodollar system, and their leading spokesperson is none other than Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Americans should be very worried about what Putin can do. There is a new Cold War going on. It is the colder war. That is exactly what's going on. And who's in the center of this push? Vladimir Putin. And the petrodollar is so crucial to the colder war. The only thing holding America right now at the top is the petrodollar. And let me make it very clear. If the petrodollar dies, so does America as a superpower.
Would you not start to highlight the crimes of these bank gangsters and prosecute them for price manipulation of silver, gold, platinum, etc.?
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcady Economics. And in today's video, we're going to dig into the recent news that includes JP Morgan gold and silver traders finally beginning their trial, where a couple of their executives are facing RICO charges. This is the same case where the Department of Justice years ago described the JP Morgan gold and silver trading desk as a criminal enterprise. And after a series of delays, things are finally underway and started. So we'll dig into what is going on there, as well as some of the other news affecting the gold, silver, and economic markets. As you can see, precious metals business at JP Morgan Chase operated for years as a corrupt group of traders and sales staff who manipulated gold and silver markets for the benefit of the bank and its prized clients, a federal prosecutor told jurors in Chicago.
Would you not want to reduce the stress within the population by drip feeding the truth to people? These whiteheads have built an amazing plan, which seems, when you first look at it, it seems to be taking a heck of a long time to unfold. But when you actually start looking around your environment and you see what's actually happening and how things are changing, you will realize, guys, that we are getting very, very, very close to the end of this debt-based enslavement that the bank gangsters have imposed on us.